Uncontrollable food cravings and weekend-long food binges, that is a cycle I was stuck in for a very long time. I was eating clean Monday through Thursday, and then the weekends would come around, I'd completely lose control, and then I'd spend like Sunday night feeling horrible about myself because I was binging all weekend long. I was promising myself that next week was gonna be better, I was gonna get things dialed in, only for the same thing to happen the next week, the week after that. And it went from bad to even worse because about a year and a half ago, I was at my worst point where I was having these uncontrollable cravings that led to binges, and this was happening almost every day. So from the weekends to the happening during the week, and then like almost an everyday thing, and I just couldn't control it. And it wasn't because I needed more motivation or I didn't have enough willpower. I didn't want my goals badly enough. That wasn't the reason why I was doing it. It took me a long time to understand that my food cravings and these binges had nothing to do with any of that. They had everything to do with what was going on with my brain and nervous system. So in the last year and a half, I have lost 36 pounds. And yes, you can say that I changed my diet since then. I absolutely have, but it's not because I changed the diet, because I tried to do those things before, and the problem was that I could never get myself to stick with it. So the difference between then and now is that I understand what's going on with my brain and nervous system and how that was the driver of my behaviors, because once I understood that and began to apply some techniques and tools, that helped me better be able to regulate my brain and nervous system so that the cravings and the food binges have become a lot more manageable. So what I wanted to share on this video is what I have learned about food cravings and the brain science behind it, and to share some tools and techniques that I'm using every day that have helped me regain control over my food cravings and binges. So even as a fitness coach for over 20 years, I still struggled with food. I have to be honest, I knew about nutrition. I knew what I was supposed to eat. I knew what I wasn't supposed to eat. I coached clients on this all of the time, but it wasn't enough to get me to do the things that I already knew I needed to do. I would eat like perfect for days, and then it always came down to having that one slip up. And that was always the trigger that led to a binge. And it wasn't that I didn't know like what to eat. I knew what to do. The problem was that I couldn't get myself to do it, at least not consistently. And the reason why was because my brain was overloaded. It was like the more I tried to control it, the worse the problem got. And that's when I started looking into the neuroscience of behavior. And I started to realize that it wasn't about food or motivation at all, or willpower or setting bigger goals like a lot of times we're led to believe. It was about my brain and nervous system and how my brain and nervous system were interpreting stress and survival. So the brain's main job is to keep you alive, not to get you fit. And when it senses too much threat, that's when your survival brain starts to kick in. And when the survival brain starts to kick in, it starts to inhibit the frontal lobe, which is where all of our logical thinking and cognitive processes take place. And that's when the cravings hit. And it's not because you're weak or you're not motivated or you don't have enough willpower. It's not because you don't want your goals badly enough. It's because your brain is trying to keep you safe. It's trying to protect you from something that's going on that it's perceiving as a threat to your survival. So the goal isn't to try to fight your brain by trying to willpower your way through cravings and try to, white knuckle your way through food binges. It's actually to retrain your brain so that it stops interpreting the signals that are coming in as threatening, and that it can perceive that basically you're safe. Because once the brain perceives safety, that's when it starts to calm the alarms down, and then the logical thinking part of the brain can come back online, and then that's when the cravings will start to reduce. I mean, think about this. How many times have you ever noticed that during periods where you are really stressed out, or you have a million things on your plate, or maybe you're just mentally drained after a long day or a super hard day at work, that you have more intense food cravings than you normally would? Or how many times has that led you to an episode of binging on foods that you know you're not supposed to eat? You know you're not supposed to do it, but it's almost like you just can't get yourself to do it. Let me know in the comments below if that's ever happened to you. I've had to experiment a lot with finding things that worked, and one thing that I've been doing, a lot of that has worked really well for me, is just focusing on some neuro training drills. And I do this every day because it's like the one thing that really helps to calm that whole kind of alarm system in my brain that's perceiving danger and threat and threats to my survival, that's driving me, or that was driving me, to have these uncontrollable cravings and binge eating episodes. So now, first thing I do when I start my day is, like, I get up in the morning and I've got some studying to do before I go to work. And so what I'll do is I will have all the lights off. So the only thing I'm looking at is a screen, which probably isn't the best thing to do, but I've got to make time to do it. And so I put on my colored glasses, and I have some amber colored glasses that help to, what they help to do is to keep my visual system from getting overly fatigued. Because what would happen before is, like, I was starting my day completely drained by the time I would start work because my visual system was so wiped out from staring at the screen the whole time before work. So wearing the colored glasses and having the lights on is one of the things that helps to inhibit that whole survival brain response. The second thing that I do is, while I'm studying, then I am fueling my body. And so I make sure that I get some protein in me, a good amount of protein, because that's the one thing that will keep my body feeling evenly balanced. It's more satisfying. It takes longer for the body to process protein compared to other nutrients. And so it just, it really helps me feel kind of grounded and balanced out. So I've got the whole kind of survival brain that's being inhibited. I'm fueling my body to give it the nutrients to drive the energy into it where it needs to go. And at that point, the input coming into my brain is that everything is safe. And so what I notice is, like, that helps immediately start to calm me down. So then once I have the survival brain calmed down, what I'll usually do is, on my way to work, I will start to do some activation drills for the frontal lobe. Because again, the survival brain inhibits the frontal lobe and vice versa. So what I notice is that if I try to activate my frontal lobe without inhibiting the survival brain, it doesn't really work well. The drills don't stick as well. So once the survival brain's kind of out of the way, now I just reinforce a couple drills on my way to work. So I'll do things, usually I'll do some vision drills, and I don't do this while I'm actually driving the car. I'll do it while I'm parked. Or sometimes if I'm at a stoplight, I'll run through a drill for a few seconds because that's all it really takes. So I will combine saccades with smooth pursuits to help with some eye tracking that helps me to activate the frontal lobe. And then sometimes when I get to work, I might run through just some basic isometric kind of exercises, because that's another way to help reinforce activation of the frontal lobe as well. These drills literally wake up the part of my brain that has to do with keeping me focused and disciplined without having to rely on things like motivation and willpower or just trying harder. Because let's face it, those things eventually wear out. And when they do, those are the times where it's easy to slip back into old habits. Then you're dealing with uncontrollable cravings before you know it, and then that leads to food binges. Another thing that I'll do is sometimes, depending on how my digestive system is feeling, and this one surprised me when I first learned about it, was that the vestibular system and our digestive system are very closely linked. So for me, I do tend to have issues with my vestibular system, and at times it could be a little bit more off than other times. But typically, if we have issues in our vestibular system, a lot of times that drives problems with our digestive system. So sometimes I will run through a couple of vestibular drills if I feel like my digestion's a little bit off and it needs to kind of be kicked in a little bit. Because anytime your vestibular system is off, then that could kick in the whole survival mode part of the brain and increase threat levels. And then again, once we're there, the more the threat levels rise and the survival brain kicks in, the more likely we are to engage in survival type behaviors. And one of those behaviors is eating more food. So depending on what I'm dealing with, sometimes I might do drills like VOR type drills where I'm keeping my eyes fixed on a target while I'm moving my head in different directions. And sometimes I might just do some saccule bouncing. A lot of times that really helps for me as well. So, these are just some of the things that I'm doing as part of my whole kind of morning routine, if you will. And the difference has been very significant because now at the end of the day, because like I have more mental energy during the day, my body physically feels better. It's like the mental energy drives the physical energy. And at the end of the day, I've got more fuel in the tank. I'm not suffering from things like decision fatigue to where, I don't want to make a decision. My cognitive part of my brain is shut off. And then that's when cravings kick in, because that's usually when it would happen at the end of the day, like a long work day for me. So now it's like I've got more mental and physical energy. I feel way more balanced, more grounded, if you will. And it's made a huge difference because I'm not dealing with the cravings as much. Now, the weekends, I'm still a work in progress. I still have some work to do there. Those are times where I plan to enjoy myself. It's family time with my fiance and our kids. We go out to dinner. I have what I want. I have dessert. That can bleed into having too much of something or some things that I shouldn't be. And I do need to get a little bit better handle on that still. It is a work in progress, but I can say this. My weekends used to be completely out of control. Like I'm at a point now where I have more control over what I'm doing, more control over the cravings, more control so I don't just like fly off, the handle and go off the rails and binge out, for like 2 straight days. So it's gotten a lot better. Like I think I mentioned earlier, over the last year and a half, I've lost 36 pounds. And it's because I have much better control over these things. And, not only that, it's like the better control that I have over these things, the more likely I am to stick with my nutrition plan. So it makes it a lot easier. Instead of fighting cravings, now I manage them. And instead of food controlling me, I have more control over food. So now I have a much better understanding of what my body and my brain are telling me, rather than misinterpreting these signals as signals to eat and then flying off the rails and eating everything in sight because of that. So it always comes down to, instead of trying to fix the behaviors that are happening, remember, these are just responses that are happening. Overeating, binge eating, food cravings. When we try to fix these things, but we don't fix what's driving them, that's where the problems start to happen. So they always tend to come back. So instead of doing that, it's much easier to look above the neck, start looking at the brain and nervous system and identifying what is driving the whole threat response and the survival brain response, and then working on being able to calm that down. Because the more that we calm that down and decrease that response, the better the behavior happens, the less likely we are to result in binging and giving into food cravings and overeating and all of these things. So if this helped you and you'd like to see more videos like this about the neuroscience and neuro training to help to manage cravings and to be more consistent, or maybe you're a coach that works with clients and you're trying to help them change their behaviors and you'd like to see more videos like this to help your clients so that they can get better results and stick with you longer, then be sure to click the subscribe link down below. And in the meantime, be sure to catch this video.